everybody? Welcome to Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. As always, I am your host, the Dharma Guy, and I'm, of course, joined with the one, the only, the Duke Doctor. What's up, man?
Not much, man. Just here, just relaxing. I'm in the studio, Trinity, where you should be. Say
I
boom.
see that.
All right.
I see that.
Yep,
And
yep.
as you were just notifying me prior to us going on air, well, I guess we were technically live on Facebook, but we weren't
Yeah,
starting the official start of the show. You
yeah.
notified me that you were out of liquids, man. That is no bueno.
I am. I am.
Celsius, what are you going to do for us, man?
It's
Well,
empty.
Celsius has done a
What?
lot for us for Hopeathon, but not for us as WPSN.
I was gonna say, you
I got a
should have.
garage full of Celsius that I stare at every day that I can't touch.
I thought you were gonna say I have four cans.
Yeah, I've got like, there's only one left. I don't know what happened. They just sent us one. It was weird. They sent us a single can. Um, but anyways, yeah. So for those of you who did not watch us on Friday on the Couch Live, we had a couple little announcements. Um, and that is that we're kind of changing the format of the show just slightly. And bear with us as we work out all these little kinks. And if you have any feedback, feel free to give it to us. Things that you like, you don't like, or you want to see more of. But essentially, what we're doing now is we're going to add a couple topics to our shows. For the interim, anyways, here on Tuesdays for Dharma Time. Afterwards, we're going to switch gears a little bit and go into sports mode. So we're going to have the morning after with Dope and Dharma. So we're going to address the current sports and what's happening with that, and our opinions and thoughts, and just relevant news. And then, of course, on Friday, if you guys did tune in, we have the Couch Live, and immediately after we have our political show called We the Middle. Essentially, him and I are both in the middle, but we have obviously views, and we like to discuss the current climate of politics. And there's there's election next week, so I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about with that. And the other, I guess, formatting change that we're doing as well is all of the shows now, instead of being a set time that we're trying to hold ourselves to, we're kind of just going to let it flow. And when it ends, it ends. And that sometimes that might be 30 minutes, an hour, I mean, who knows? We're just going to let it flow and see what happens. So, in addition to that, you don't see his background anymore, but above his head a little bit, you can kind of see the website. We have the Now Matters More Foundation, of which he's the founder. I'm the president. And that's the main thing that we do when we're not up here flapping our gums and giving our opinions on things. We help individuals struggling with the disease of addiction. And we do that through the Now Matters More Foundation, of which you can check out who we are and what we're about at nowmattersmore.org. You can fill out an application under if you need help. You can read about who we are, or you can hit that little donate button. We always we love donations. And if you or somebody you know is in immediate need of help, you can reach out via phone at 833 Now Matters. That's 833 Now Matters, and we will we'll help you. So, you got anything you want to add before we get started on today's topic?
Nope.
I
It's
gotta say,
coming up
man, my
November
energy
14th.
level is low today. I think allergies, man. I don't know. We're here in Florida. I'm not sure where
Yeah.
everybody's at watching and listening to this, but I think the pollen or something's been high. Like I don't. Does anybody in other states have to actually like consider the pollen count? Like is that or is that a Florida thing?
I
Like,
don't know. I didn't even have allergies until I came to Florida,
yeah,
to be
man.
honest with you.
Like it's insane, dude. Like it just ruins your whole day. It's just such a damper on things.
Yeah, mine are kicking in too. So whatever is bothering you, it's bothering me too.
Yeah, man. Like my sinuses are out. Like it's just a low energy day, man. I really don't feel like doing anything. I'm kind of just lounging around, barely even leaving the house right now.
Right.
I
I
was
guess there was
already,
no pollen in El Paso, man. It was
yeah,
just
yeah. It's just weird. Oh, I saw a
desert
video.
sunshine.
I saw a video somebody posted. I guess the first snow hit El Paso. I had no clue it snowed in El Paso.
Yeah, man. Hey, dude. Besides that, well, it doesn't really snow in El Paso, really, except every
Oh,
time I
okay.
happen to be there when it's winter. I got hit in a blizzard there, about 6 years back. But one thing that El Paso's going through, man, the COVID's going crazy over there.
Really?
They made national news yesterday in regards to shutting it down. They want everybody to stay home for 2 weeks.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the emergency rooms are full up.
Oh, perfect. Ellie Lawton just says hi, and she's over in the UK listening to us live. Do you guys
Ooh,
have like allergy stuff over there? Do you guys have to worry about pollen counts and things of that nature, or is that just a U.S. thing? Or I'm curious.
really?
I am curious. I'm curious because I've never heard like I don't ever hear anybody else talking about it, right? Like other than people here
It's
who
'cause
live locally.
because we complain.
We do
We like
complain.
to
We all
complain.
complain.
So,
Anyways, I digress. So on Friday we did a show on the couch live. I don't remember the
yeah.
topic at the moment.
Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate
Man, I can't even tell
that.
you what I have for breakfast right now, so don't feel bad. But I do remember the topic had a lot to do. It was self sabotage. Boom! Look at that. Look at that. That's that youth right there. Um, but yeah, self sabotage was the topic on Friday's show. I would tell you to go to YouTube and watch it, but somebody hasn't uploaded it yet. I'm not even sure if it's available on podcast right now either. So if you want to watch it, you probably have to search for it
On the
somewhere here
punching bag.
on Facebook. But oh, see, Ellie said they do have to worry about pollen count. Okay, so I don't feel so silly. It's not just a Florida thing. Anyways, so we talked.
We probably got it from the UK.
Yeah, right. They brought it over here.
They brought it up.
So on Friday's Couch Live, we talked about self sabotage and how that pertains mostly to addiction, but other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting because prior to even having that show, I already knew that I wanted today's show to be about resentments. So it was interesting that Friday's show kind of coincided with it very well, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to talk about resentments today, because from a philosophical or even a spiritual, perspective, I think resentments are such a powerful thing in today's world right now, man. I think that it's a topic that doesn't get a lot of discussion. I think we're all collectively aware of it for the most part, but I don't think any of us are ready to admit how impactful it really is in our day to day lives. Be it resentments that we're holding and how that's impacting how we treat others and interact with the day,
Yeah.
or if that's resentments that we're the catalyst for in other people. Obviously there's an argument that can be had there that our expectations lead to resentments. But there is a role that we play, right? So part of spirituality is I can't affect your suffering at all, but what I can do is try not to add to it, right? And so part of not adding to it is trying to refrain from things that might generate resentment in somebody else. So that's the role that we all have collectively, right? Which we'll get to eventually. But before we get started into the nitty gritty, do you have any immediate thoughts when I say resentments? Like what pops in your head?
Yeah, I got one towards you.
Right on. Is that because of the Celsius I have in my garage? That
Yeah. That and the fact that I'm here in the studio by myself while you're still in Studio C.
Yeah. Well, it's studio. Wouldn't this be D for Destiny? I guess.
There you go, Studio
Studio
D.
D.
I like
There's a big D on the wall right here too.
that. Studio D.
Yeah. But yeah, so resentments, man. Like if I'm honest, man, I've had my fair share, right? Like we've all had them. I think the trick is acknowledging them when you do have them, right? The idea that you don't have any resentments at all is complete and utter bullshit, right? We all have them. Just not everybody allows it to directly impact our day to day lives, but we all have them. I think the true skill is learning how to overcome them or learning how to put them in their proper place, right? As far as the weight that you give it.
Yeah.
So for me, resentments, I'll start just kind of from my own perspective, like when resentment started for me. The earliest I can remember when I started to taste the sweet nectar of resentment was against my dad, right? Like growing up, I had a lot of resentment that I had a crappy dad and he did horrible things, and so consequently, I grew up with such a massive chip on my shoulder, just angry at the world and just so mad. And it wasn't anything anybody directly did to me, but I was just holding resentment towards that. Like why did I have to feel this? Why did I have to go through this? I want to punish everybody, right? And that resentment, that mindset of resentment, gosh, dude, I used to be so proud of that, man. I really was. I was so proud of the fact that I harbored such anger and rage inside of me because I don't know, unintelligently thought that was my source of power.
I was gonna say, yeah, that was your source of control.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and obviously it wasn't in hindsight, but at the time, I really seriously thought like without that, I had no motivation. Right? Like you hear we got the sports show come up later on, right? So Michael Jordan used to famously just make up things to be angry about, to go out there on the court and just blow people out the water. So I was similar in the sense of I thought that anger and rage made me better and more efficient in anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it didn't, right? Like it made me blind to whatever was in front of me. Because coming from a resentful place, you see conflict in everything, right? Like you see problems in everything. You take everything personal that everybody's doing. And yeah, you might get some short term results that you like. But if you look long term and if you look at the interpersonal relationships you're having, I bet you they disagree with that, right? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I was sitting here listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking, did you have a plan
A
in your
plan?
head along with that resentment? Yeah. Well, because as a kid, you probably didn't know it as resentment, but did you have like a little, like a plan of what you wanted to do to him or say to
Oh,
him?
oh yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
I
So,
had
so what happens to that?
yeah.
You know,
Um,
is that what you had to work on? Like when you had to deal with the resentment, did you have to work on that plan? Like get rid of it
I had
or
to work
store
on
it away or
forgiveness. I had to work on forgiveness. Really was what the. So it was. It's actually funny you bring that up because my daughter, and for those of you who don't know, like by law, like she's my stepdaughter. Her and I were talking the other day, and she asked me. I don't remember what we were doing, but just randomly she asked me if I would want to ever meet my dad now, like if I want to see him, and asked me if I wanted to talk to him or if I had any questions or if I wanted to hurt him or just she had a
right,
myriad of questions. And I think part of the reason why she was asking is because, as I said, she's my stepdaughter, meaning she has a biological father who has not risen to the standards that she would have liked for a multitude of reasons. But so it's a I think it's a subject that she is learning how to wrestle with right now in a skillful way in her life.
yeah,
So I think she was asking me, and my answer now was vastly different than it would have been 20 years ago had she asked me. 20 years ago, yeah, I wanted to meet him, man. I wanted to find him. If I would have seen him somewhere, I would have purposely gone up and hit him. Probably wouldn't have ended well for either one of us. But once I was able to get to a point of forgiveness, I kind of had closure, man, and I don't know how to explain it other than the fact of just completely unaffected. Meaning, she asked me if I'd want to see him. I was like, no, why? Like, I have no desire to see him. I have no desire to yell or why. It doesn't matter to me. It's literally the equivalent of asking me if I want to go and just to some random person's house and just say hi. Like, no, for what? Like, I don't have anything against those people. If I saw them, I'd be very cordial. But
yeah,
I don't have a desire to go out of my way to interact in any way, shape, or form, neither positive nor negative. And so for me, once I got to that point of closure, the resentments that I was holding against him and taking it out on the world kind of subsided on their own a little bit. And that was the beginning part of me finding my inner peace. Actually, and believe it or not, I did that before spirituality, man. I kind of just did it. I mean, I realized it needed to be done. I started realizing the problems that resentment was causing, and I think that's the key for a lot of people. If you're holding on to resentment right now, if you're watching a show and something or somebody has wronged you or hurt you from your perspective, and you're holding on to that, you know, uh, this goes back to my you could be right or you could be happy, right? You could be right. I'm sure whatever it was egregious enough to where you could probably have a whole slew of people all in agreement on how horrible it was and how you're right and you're justified and yeah, that's horrible and I can't believe it. But that doesn't do anything for your inner peace. That validation just makes you more angry, makes you more set, and yeah, I need to hold on to this. I chose to be happy, and in order to be happy, I had to let it go. And one of my favorite things, and this was years ago, somebody I know, I used to post these little one of my clients one time called it Trinityisms. But I posted this thing on Facebook one time, and it said, I don't remember I have to look it up now, but it was something along the lines of letting it go, right? Let things be. And somebody said, I want to, but it's so hard, right? And I was like, really? I was like, okay, I understand that, but my perspective is I think it's actually harder to not let it go, right? It's like holding a big anchor walking down the street, saying it's hard. It's hard to to drop it and keep going. It was like I think
right,
it's harder to lug that damn thing around with you everywhere. So for me, it was harder to hold on. The life I created for myself by holding on to resentment created arguments every time I turned around. It created interpersonal conflict. It created just this myriad of issues that when I let go, they weren't there anymore. And
right.
so I would challenge anybody to who's sitting there right now thinking, when I start talking about forgiveness and even resentments, the funniest thing is every person who's listening to it almost always unilaterally immediately thinks of something that was done to them that they can never forgive or
Hundred percent,
something they've done that isn't forgivable, and
hundred
it
percent.
immediately becomes my job to like change your mind, right? And I'm not here to do that, but my point is that particular instance that you're thinking about, I promise you, letting it go is so much more rewarding and so much more powerful than holding on to it.
Yeah. Well, what I think about when you say that is when you say it's more difficult to hold on to it. I think that it depends on how you define difficult,
Sure.
because
It's
it's
comfortable.
very familiar,
Yeah.
So because it's very familiar, it it's sad, but we put a lot of pain within our comfort zone.
Yep.
And so when that pain resides within our comfort zone, it's hard to move past that because it's familiar, it's our norm, it's just the way it is, and we start accepting it as just this is just the way it is. I'm gonna always feel this way. I'm always gonna feel this way about that person or about that situation, and like in life it's important to dream for something different, right? It's important to have some sort of vision or vision board of something different so that you can achieve it. Well, if you're walking around feeling like I'm never going to let it go, I'm never going to forgive this person, I'm never going to move past this person, well, then there's no vision, there's no hope. And when there's no vision and hope, you're right. That's where you're going to stay. You're going to stay stuck in that situation. And I'm going to use the word stuck because that's exactly what it is. What you did is you took something that was liquid and you made it concrete. And then when it's concrete, it's very difficult to remove from wherever you stored it. So now somewhere in your psyche, whether it be in your motion, whether it be in your reactions, whether it be in your behaviors, somewhere inside you, it's concrete. And if you ever want to alter that behavior, emotion, or whatever, you're gonna have to chisel your way through it and learn a different way to get around the situation. So in my particular case, my resentment was with individuals that there was some deserving nature to it, yeah. But at the end of the day, it was like, well, there was also some need for me to understand of how it came to be, and
Right.
then instead of focusing on how it began, it's how did I help continue it to make it impossible for the other individual to now move past it or to gain my forgiveness, right?
Right.
Because I was always thinking that someone else had to deserve my kindness or had to deserve my trust or had to deserve my respect or had to deserve my forgiveness. But that is what I had to learn was different, Trinity.
Yeah.
I had to learn that you don't earn shit from me. I everything I give you is a gift from me. It
Right.
has nothing to do with you. Now I can make it have everything to do with you, but if I do that, then you have all the power and control. And isn't that what I was upset about in the first place? I was upset that you
Yeah.
actually had that kind of power and control over me. So I had to kind of figure that out and change that whole paradigm. It was a paradigm shift in my head to say, well, wait a minute, if I took control, like what would it be like if I had control over these emotions? What if I took control of the situation? Well, then I'm going to respect you because it's right to respect other people, not
Right.
because you deserved it or earned it. I'm going to trust you because it's right to trust other people. That doesn't mean I trust you with my car or $1,000. That just simply means that I trust you to be who you are. And that is, so if you're an asshole, I just trust you to be an asshole. If you're a good person, I trust you to be a good person. So trust is a very interesting, topic in there. But by doing that, I took back control. And when I took back control of how I respond or how I react or how I feel, I realized I'm not as angry about it. It didn't derive as much emotion out of the situation. Whereas before, Trinity, that emotion was very, very fresh, and all it took is one sentence or even one look or even one thought. I could be lying in my bed silent with that person not even around, and all I had to do is think about the person, and I would be friggin' furious, man. It
Yeah.
would completely destroy my moment. And there comes a point where grabbing control back finally felt better than sitting still in that situation and feeling frozen. What I realized was water is a lot better than concrete. I don't want to. You can't swim in concrete, but I can swim in water and I can flow. So that's where I went with it.
Yeah. I think also one of the gosh man, I think one of the hardest things to keep in the forefront. I know of my mind, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of others as well. And let me preface this by saying first, I stir up so much with this particular phrase right here that I'm about to say
Oh,
more than most other phrases I do.
all right.
Once again, because somebody's automatically thinking of like the absolute worst possible thing, and
Okay.
that is it's not personal, right? That is, gosh, that's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around sometimes, right? And because we think that it's because it's something we're experiencing inevitably it's personal, right? Like that's our binary thought process is if it's happening to them, it's them. If it's happening to me, it's personal. Um, and it's just not, right? You just said earlier, if you know somebody to be an asshole, then you just expect them to be an asshole, right?
Yeah,
Well, them being an asshole is more about them than it is to you. That's just who they are.
yeah. It's
So
just who they are.
if you're experiencing their asshole-ish, it's
Hmm.
not personal, right? And that's the thing that in the afterwards or even prior to, it's very easy for people to kind of go over that. But in the middle of and heat of, it's a lot harder to calm down and realize it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
The example that I use all the time because I it's an extreme example, obviously, but it's universal in its effect. Is you walk into a gym and you see a guy sitting on a bench with his eyes closed and headphones in, and he's practicing shadow boxing. He's just practicing. He's in his own little world, minding his business, just shadow boxing away.
Right.
And you walk right in front of him, and as you walk in front of him, you get hit. Are you going to get mad and angry and pissed off at this person, say they hit you? Most people won't. Most people think, well, I walked right in front of him. What did you expect? Well, that's all of us in our everyday life. We're all just kind of like going through our day, and you just so happen to walk in front of it and experience some of it.
Well, if
That's,
it's Pinklin Thomas, you better keep walking. If
yeah,
it's a real
right.
box, you better keep walking.
Exactly. But my point in all that is just each one of us is handling things unskillfully every day in our own way, and you just so happen to walk in front of it, and you're catching somebody else's unskillful moment. And that's all it is. That's what I mean by it's not personal. Somebody's
Right.
yelling at you, calling you names, doing whatever, cussing you up and down, calling your mama names, whatever. That to me says more about them. That's where they're at in their place.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, some of my favorite group members when we used to do groups and stuff is the rowdy ones, right? The angry, the aggressive ones, the ones that would try to like be really kind of dickish in the meeting, right? Like you conducted a group session, and most of them are just sitting there nodding their heads, listening. Some of them are only sleeping because they're fresh out of detox. But you always had that one, right? That one is just he's really combative and just kind of a prick. I love those ones.
Me too.
I absolutely love those ones because if I can figure out what it is that's happened to them that's
Yeah.
caused them to hold on to such animosity at the moment, it's a huge breakthrough for that individual. And that's how we got to start looking at stuff. What's happened to you either today or in your life that's made you think that that's the best way to handle the situation right now? How have you been hurt, right? And that to me is how I try to approach situations now. I used to approach situations as I can't believe you just said that to me. Like who the hell do you think you are and all these other things. But now I approach it as in, wow, what happened to make you feel that bad? Like what happened to make you feel that you need to do this right now?
Yeah.
And try to get to the bottom of it somehow. And so for me,
Well,
I think that's what helps. Go ahead.
well, unfortunately, low self-esteem. When you have low self-esteem, everything is personal.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. When you're struggling with something about yourself, and it could be valid or it could be completely irrational. It doesn't really matter. But if you're struggling with something about yourself, from the rules of a place to how to how the room is set up, to how people drive, to how they communicate with you, to how the attention you're getting when you're standing in line, or how long it takes for you to get attention at a store. When you're struggling with some sort of feeling of inferiority, it has caused you to feel bad about yourself or different about yourself, you start projecting that on everybody. And so because you're judgmental about yourself, you feel that they are as well. Now, you won't take ownership of that. We're seeing a lot of that right now. There's a lot of people that have some sort of inferiority complex or feeling some sort of way about themselves or about their situation, and because they're miserable about something, they're projecting it onto somebody else and feeling, well, that's what you're thinking about me, or that's what you're saying about me when you say that comment, or when you're looking at me like that, or when you put that rule down in place. And that's not what it is, man. So everything becomes personal, Trinity. So
Yeah.
when you say, it's not personal, yeah, to that person, everything is, and their reality is their reality.
Sure.
So I think what we all have to understand is if you believe something to be true, then it is to you. That doesn't make it true to everybody else. That doesn't make it true in the definition of true.
It doesn't make it factual.
That's right. It doesn't make it factual. That's a better way of saying it. But it's true to you. And unfortunately, when it's true to you, that means that is the set of dominoes that's going to be pushed over. That and every other domino past that, and you don't know where that's going to go. So you could be moving in a very beautiful direction and get some great outcomes. However, because you're taking it very personal, because you got some issues that you have yet to deal with, you push down that domino, and because you push that domino, that's going to now you're got to go that way for a while until you can intercept it. And
Yeah.
so the sooner you can intercept a flow of negative energy or a flow of resentment energy, then the better for you, because you don't know how far that's going to go, but I promise you it will continue to go. The dominoes do not end falling until we die.
Yeah.
So that means that you can always intercept it. It's never too late to intercept it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I see so many, uh, I see so much potential stifled by resentments. Like people can't get out of their own way, right? Where you're like it happened to me, right? There was, I am so much better of a husband, so much better of a father, so much better of a son, so much better of a
What, than
friend.
me? No, I was
Uh,
kidding. I see. I was just taking it personal. I was just being a joke.
I'm just so much better uh, in all those categories now that
Yeah,
I'm no longer holding that resentment, right?
yeah,
Because when
yeah.
you're holding on to that resentment, what people don't realize and what they don't understand is your reaction to things is based upon your state of mind currently. It's not who you are; it's who you've learned to be over the years. So if
Yep.
you've learned to be a resentful, aggressive, angry person, or have the like you're always saying, you have this massive button, that gets you fired up,
Yeah.
and you don't work on making that button smaller,
Right.
your whole day changes, right? Like that's the difference between two people walking into a store interacting in the exact same way, but one coming out saying what a great experience, and the other one coming out saying I can't stand that place. This is
Right.
horrible. The
Right.
same thing happened. There was just perspective. If one's
Right.
coming from a resentful place, I'm telling you, you have no idea the amount of ways that it's impacting your day to day life. It's such mundane to such impactful, amazing things. Think about like let's just say you're holding on to some resentments, and something minute happens that triggers that resentment, and you go off the handle at somebody,
Mm.
but it was in a situation to where somebody was watching you to potentially offer you something amazing, but now they're no longer going to offer that something amazing to you because that's what they see how
Right.
you handle situations, because that in that moment they're not going to care about the context. They're not going to care that, oh well, this reminded you. They don't care. That what they see is this is how you handle a relatively mundane situation,
Yeah.
and you blew it way up. I'm good. I'm not going to offer that to you. And call it right or wrong, it just is, right? Like, we could argue all day long that nobody should ever judge us from our worst possible moment and everything, but they do, right?
Yeah.
They will make the instantaneous judgment, and so and there's so many things that we chalk up to just who I am,
Yeah.
and it's
Too much.
not. A lot of those who I am, well, everything of who I am
Yeah.
comes from your previous experiences, both good and bad. You've
Right.
adapted and you've learned how to, okay, this is, if I do this, then I'm going to get this. So I'm going to keep doing this. And if what I'm getting is bad, then I'm going to modify and change that.
Right.
That's not
Right.
who you are. That's just who you've learned to be. You've been trained to do that. So you can train yourself to do something else. I know it's hard. It's
Right.
absolutely hard. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's a simple concept to do, but it just takes a lot of effort and follow through essentially to maintain getting rid of, and by all means we all still have them, right? I still have resentments. I see them pop up all the time. The only difference is now is when I see a resentment forming, I can feel it in like the pit of my stomach.
Right.
I can
Right.
feel it. I'll feel myself start to get aggressive, or I'll feel myself start to get kind of like enraged, or like very snappy judgment, right? Like something will happen, and my immediate thought is very harsh, and I'll stop like, whoa, where's that coming from? Like, and I'll remember like, all right, like I know where that's coming from. And
Right.
sometimes, yeah, like you, I like to stir the pot a little bit. So sometimes I'll let
Yep.
that thing fly. You know what I mean? It depends on the situation and who it is. Sometimes I'll just let it fly and see what happens.
Yep. Yep.
But I do it knowingly, right? Like I know it's resentment. I know it's probably going to stir up some trouble, but I'm choosing to do that. I'm not a victim of my own circumstance. So that way, if it does go bad, I can't then get further resentments by saying, "Oh,
Right.
nah, no, it went bad because I knew it was going to go bad." So I can't get even more resentful that it went bad. And so I think that the key is we're not talking about a resentment-free life. We're just talking about learning how to understand and see a resentment for what it is and
Right.
work on that towards no longer dictating to you what your response is going to be and how you're going to interact with things. And that's huge. I really think it is, man. And so that's one half of the equation is the resentments that we hold towards other people, places, things, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I think I think we've covered the work that it takes to do that to get rid of them. But then the
Yeah.
other half of it, I think, is just as important, and that is trying not to behave in a way where you're eliciting resentments from others, right? Meaning, you know, I'm trying to think. If we're doing something, and okay, like you and me, right? Let's say if there was something that I was doing on a continuous basis that you've told me, you've let me know, you don't necessarily agree with, if you don't like,
Right.
uh, um, but I keep doing it, like poking the bear almost, not intentionally even, just oh, well, this is just my routine. Um, I can't be shocked then if you start to harbor resentments towards me, right? So I want to be very careful though as we approach this topic. And I want to be careful in the sense of I'm not saying that we're in control of other people's thoughts, emotions, or feelings because we're not.
Right. Right.
But we can be the catalyst to get something in return that we're not looking to get. Right. In other words, if I walked up to somebody and I, called them every name in the book and screamed and yelled at them, do they have the right to hit me? No, but they might, right? Like, and they wouldn't have if I just walked up and said, "Hey, how you doing? Have a nice day," right? So we can elicit responses from people. We're not in control of them, but we can do that. I think that we forget sometimes in today's society of self accountability works both ways, right?
Mm.
Like, yeah, I'm in control of my behavior, but I'm also controlling my behavior and how it affects those around me. And I see that a lot where people are completely unaware or refuse to acknowledge how your behavior impacts the rest of us, right? Like, I'll keep it personal so I don't piss anybody off. I'm aware that my personality can set the tone for my house, right? Like, I know if I come in the house and I'm pissed, man. Like, something happened, I'm irritated. I could come in the house and I might not be yelling and screaming. That's just not how I am anymore. But I can be very cold. I can be very distant and very standoffish. And when I do that, it sets off a domino effect in my house. It's like a
Right.
chain reaction. The
Right.
dogs are like, oh, uh-oh, they go away. My kids are like, I'm gonna go to the room. My wife is like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what? Nothing. Well, sometimes it really is nothing, but a lot of times if that happens, it's I'm trying to deal with something, I'm disconnected, but because my frustrations are getting to me, it's spilling out to those around me, and then it's affecting them. And so what happens then for the rest of the day, my wife might be, kind of irritable with me or irritable with the kids. Like, it's a chain reaction. And it
Mm.
all started because I brought home, like you said, negative energy. And so I think that we have to be aware of the negative energy that we put out there to the people around us. And while we might not be directly in control of their behavior or reactions to it, we can elicit certain responses. And so I think that's important for us to realize, put simply, just common courtesy, right? Let's just be
Right.
courteous.
Well, not only elicit certain responses, but people have premeditated responses, like you said. Like
Yeah.
people just will say, that's just the way I am. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And the danger with that Trinity of walking around saying this is just the way I am, or this is just who I am, things like that are. We are a mathematical equation. I like to use math in who we are. I think math
Fibonacci.
is the true. Yeah, I just think math is the true answer to everything, right? So within math, there are all the answers. It's so damn complicated when you really get down to it that it gets very difficult. But the processes are the processes, and there's always an answer somewhere. So what I'm thinking here, when you say that, or when I say that people say this is just the way I am, is just look at yourself like a math problem. And if you say this is just the way I am, then you're saying, let's say it's 2 plus 2. Well, your formula is done. So 2 plus 2 equals 4, and it's always 4. So you're just acting like your formula is over with, when in reality, your formula actually is altered and changed by every moment you breathe, by every moment that you experience some new experience, and something else happens in this lifetime. So, and we know there's always other numbers and there's always other formulas that are coming into your life. And as those new formulas and numbers come into your life, that actually changes the sum. That actually changes the outcome. So if that's going to change the outcome in the sum, then why are we walking around acting like we already know that 2 plus 2 is 4, and that's all I am is 2 plus 2 is 4? Imagine if math would have stopped at that. That's just 2 plus 2 equals 4. And then nobody ever searched for E equals MC squared or any other mathematical problem, because we just, well, if 2 plus 2 equals 4, the math is done. Well, that's
Yeah,
math.
we're
That's
done.
all. We don't need anything more. Well, no, we have addition, but we also have subtraction. You know what? We also have multiplication. We also have division. And then we have all those other complicated formulas that, trust me, are way above my pay grade. So I'm not even going to try to get into them. But some of you have went on to very difficult in complicated math, trigonometry and calculus and on, where you actually required a machinery that was created by man to help you do it better or faster. And then there's all these kinds of formulas. So basically all this is being said to prove that at the end of the day, although you may be aware, maybe, to who you are today, which is the sum, that doesn't mean that's the same sum that'll be tomorrow, because you will be further complicated. You will be altered by whatever you experience right now. Hell, you're altered by this conversation if you allow yourself to be altered by this conversation. Or you could sit there with your ears shut. You could sit there, saying, you guys are nice and everything, you're cool and everything, but I disagree. It's just the way it is, and I'm always going to feel like this, and I'm always going to be like this, and life is never going to get better for me. It's been like this for a very long time, and to be honest with you, I'm too old to change anyway. And all that is just bullshit excuses, and I'm sorry. I'm saying this as respectfully as I can, but why? What allows you to just stop? You're still living, and what living means is that you're still moving forward and growing. What living means is you're still moving forward and adapting and changing. That's what it really means. Now, you may not think you're changing, but your body is, your brain is, everything about you is still adapting and altering. What's not changing, adapting, or altering is your decision to stay put, your decision to be stuck in a certain thought process, behavior, or attitude about it. That's the only thing not changing. But everything else really is. You can't get away from it.
Yeah, and the the other thing I would add to this too is another thing I see quite common is retaliation.
Mm.
They did this, well, I'm gonna do this back, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if somebody is in a situation, be it a friendship, a relationship, whatever it may be, because I've seen this a lot as well, actually. More than I thought I would, because when I would talk about this type of stuff in some of my group stuff, um, I was getting a lot of responses based upon that, where they feel, especially in like relationships, where they felt that the other person wasn't going to reciprocate, so why do it? What a shitty reason not to do something, right? Like, and in the moment, I get it, dude. Emotions are high. You're resentful.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It makes sense. But when you stop and back up, like your thing is, you don't have to earn respect. Like, no,
Right.
you just give it. It's supposed to be.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
kindness and common decency should never have to be reciprocated or earned. You should do it just because it's the right thing to do as a human being, right? And so
Amen.
this tit for tat thing can stop whenever you want it to.
Mm.
And if you're in a situation where you're dealing with another person and they're causing resentments in you,
Right.
you don't have to then also do something passive aggressive to cause resentments in them, right?
Right.
Like, you can be the bigger person, say, you know what, I'm gonna kill him with kindness. And believe it or not, it actually works, man. Think about it this way. You know how easy it is for us to get pissed off at somebody who's being mean and nasty and rude to us? Like, it's really easy. It's really easy to, like, okay, I'm gonna match your level of pissed off.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right. Right.
You know how hard it is, man. I've tried this. You know how hard just because I'm a stubborn prick at times.
Right. Right.
It is almost impossible to be really mad and angry at somebody who's just being really genuinely nice to you.
Genuinely is the key word there, because if they're being
Yeah.
sarcastically
Oh,
nice,
of
then it's
course,
really
of
easy to
course.
slap them upside their
No,
head.
but I'm talking about, we can tell the difference when somebody's just
Yeah.
genuinely nice, man. They're just like, they're loving, they're compassionate, they're caring. You know, oh my God, it's almost impossible to be angry at
But
that person.
Trinity, you said you could tell the difference, but you may not trust the difference.
Sure,
And that's where the problem
sure,
lies, right?
yeah,
You may not trust what you're visually seeing. And here's the problem: it's because you accumulate resentment, right? So like if I have a resentment towards you, Trinity, and then you're gone, and I can't get my retaliation. Now I'm holding on to it, but I can't retaliate to you. So what do? I'm going to give it to the next person that reminds me of you,
yeah,
or what I mean. So then you have this accumulation effect. Whereas we've seen it in individuals who have multiple relationships that failed like the exact same way, or whatever. So it's accumulated, and so then along comes the good one, right? Or along comes the one that's probably the most healthiest one you've ever had.
it sucks
But
for
you've
you.
accumulated it so much that you don't even allow that person to even get close to you, because now you're walking around like, oh, I've seen this before. I
Yeah.
know that type.
Yeah.
I've seen people like you before, and so you judge. And the other thing is that, you were saying that tit for tat. I want to make sure I say this because I'll forget. So that tit for tat thing. So it reminds me of this, and I know we're going to be talking about the sports show, but so I'm going to use a sports analogy since we're doing sports today.
Sure.
So Trinity, have you ever been in a situation? I know you have, where you're throwing a football, right? You're throwing it back and forth, and all of a sudden one of you throw it harder than the other, and it hurts your hands a little bit, or it hurts your gut, right? Like,
Yep.
oh.
Yep.
So what do you do? What do you
I
do?
throw that bastard back as hard as I can.
So you throw it hard right
Yep.
back to the person, right?
Yep.
So then they go, oh, what do? They throw it back. So that is a typical of example of what retaliation and like you losing control
Yep.
are. So now you're starting to resent the person. You're developing this retaliation mentality, and now you're going outside of your normal behavior because you're responding to that person. So now that person's in control. Well, if you were understanding of what we're saying today, it would be likely or akin to this. Instead of throwing it back hard the next time, it's saying, okay, and then just putting the ball down and walking away. Now, some of you call that quitting and being a wimp or all kinds of, so therefore that's why you can't do it. That's why you're struggling, because you feel, no, I have to have the last word. I have to have the last
Pride,
throw.
man.
Exactly.
Pride coming from the fall.
It's in the way that doesn't allow you to put the ball down, because you'd lose. You don't know how to take the L, or you don't know how to just move forward. You don't realize this isn't going anywhere. There's no good happening. Guess what's going to happen? Yeah, I'm going to hurt him with this next pass, but it's going to come at me again, and it's going to hurt again. So,
well, that's the funny part, right? Like I see it with my kids, my children. I see it with them. Like what happens is, you feel hurt by somebody, or you start to get frustrated, resentful, and it never occurs to you that it wasn't personal. It never occurs to you that that person is completely oblivious to the fact that they just infringed upon you in somehow, some way. Instead of having dialogue and getting some sort of communication, straightening things out, no. You just assume that they did it on purpose, that they woke up that day, it was like, I'm going to do this to this person, and they go, oh, well, I'm going to do it back to you.
right.
And then that person, then they get hurt. They're like, why the hell did this person just do this to me? Well, I'm going to get them back. And the next thing you know, an hour and a half later, you're both sitting there with broken noses and eyes, and all for what? Because of a complete misunderstanding. It's because you thought that they threw it hard on purpose, trying to instigate something. And in all reality, like I said, this happened to me the other day. It almost. I was driving somewhere, and this is why this is the moment that I was like, you know what, I need to go back to carrying every time I leave the house. It was right after the debate, and so I think that everybody was kind of, there was a different vibe in the air after the first debates around here, anyways. And I was driving to go train my client, and I was on the phone, and there was the lane, there was a construction or something, and it made it merge into one lane. So basically, there's three lanes. The middle lane was blocked, so you had to go left or right. Left, you could go left or straight. Right, you had to turn right only. And so I'm coming up to the middle part, and I'm trying to get over to the left so I can go straight. I'm on the phone. I'm just trying to get merge over, not paying attention to the right of me whatsoever because I'm not going there, and everybody's behind me. Well, to best of my knowledge, what I can gather is I think maybe the guy behind me wanted me to move a little bit more so he can get past me. I guess I don't know.
Right.
All I know is I'm on the phone talking, and next thing you know, I hear beep beep like honking. I look over, and the guy's like hanging halfway outside of his door, like yelling. And I'm like, what is he yelling at me? Like, what the hell's happening here?
Do you know how big my arms are?
Well, so then I pulled. Well, see, that's where I did react. I mean, I pulled up. I stopped. I looked at him. I rolled down the window. Like, what? And he just got back in his car and left.
Yeah.
I guess he wasn't anticipating that I was going to respond, right? Like I thought he probably thought he was going to be able to yell and no repercussions. And even then I wasn't necessarily, I honestly was trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Like I have no clue. But in his mind, I guarantee you, he already worked up this whole narrative about this asshole in a truck is not letting me pass because of this, that, and the other. And it's probably because I'm Hispanic, because I think he was Latin. It's probably because, my car is
and you're a trumper. So you're a trumper because you're in a truck.
Because I'm a big truck. Like, I guarantee you that he already worked out this entire narrative. And what he failed to realize, I had no clue he was even there, man. And that situation could have very easily gotten out of hand, right? Because I would have curb stomped that dude if
Yeah.
push comes to shove. I will defend myself, Dharma Guy or not. And that dude could have gotten his ass whooped all because he thought that I was doing something towards him, and it would have
Yeah.
just gone out of nowhere. So it's like that happens every day, right? Like that happens in our relationships. That happens with our coworkers. That happens with our kids. That happens. You know who it doesn't happen to? Dogs. Right? The dog will never like passively aggressive do something, man. The dog is just own their
I don't
world.
know, man. I don't know.
You
I got a
think?
house with 4 dogs right now because I'm babysitting 2 of them, and
Well, now cats on the other hand are.
it
Cats are
looks like they
sneaky
play
little
some games with
shits.
each other.
Cats
It
are
looks
sneaky
like
little shits. But with
uh,
dogs though, they're happy to see you. The dog didn't crap on the carpet because he hates you. The dog crapped on the carpet because you failed to realize he needed to go outside, right? It's
but
a
they do steal each other's toys
well
and
that yeah,
other
that's a
stuff to each
dominance
other.
thing. But
Yeah,
my point is though is yeah, man, the tit for tat just never
yeah,
it never leads anywhere good, right? And so if there's somebody in your life that you're struggling with right now and you feel yourself having resentments towards that person, I encourage you to let them go. I encourage you to understand that that person is going through their own little world,
right.
and they're not doing it personally. If
Yeah,
they're doing something that just causes resentment in you, it's either A, you didn't communicate effectively enough that it's something you want
right,
to stop, or B, they're struggling with something so much that you're not even on their mind at the moment.
right.
And
Well,
neither one of those calls for you to be aggressive or passive aggressive. Both of those call for you to come from love and compassion, both for yourself and for them.
right. Well, Trinity, even if it is personal, seemingly, it's not internally personal. And here's what I mean. So even if they on purpose are doing something to mess with you or on purpose doing something to hurt you, that's still because of something inside them. That's still
Yep.
really nothing to do with you. Don't let them
Nope.
make it personal. Like they may intend it to be personal, but here's the way that remember I told you the football thing, right?
Yeah.
So football hurt, throw to the other
Yeah.
person it hurts, and you keep on throwing to each other.
Yeah.
But I'll give you another scenario, Trinity. I'm sure you've done before in the past because you probably played this trick on your kids. I've done it on my kids, and now they're real good at it too. So like you have a piece of trash in your hand, you want to get rid of it, right? So what do when someone's not paying attention? The easiest way to get rid of trash is you just go, you just hold your hand out, and some people automatically just grab it. Now when they realize that you just handed them a piece of garbage that they got to throw away, they try to give it back to you. And what do?
No, I don't want it. Yeah.
That is the way you have to handle stopping the cycle
Yeah.
of resentment and retaliation. You have to handle it like the garbage. You don't have to handle it like the football, like I got to throw it hard at him and he's got to feel the pain. You got to handle it like it's a piece of garbage because that's what it is. It's a bunch of shit. And if
Yep.
somebody had a bunch of shit that they're trying to give you, a bunch of bad feelings, a bunch of bad emotions, a bunch of
Yep.
bad juju, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and they're trying to give it to you, you just go,
No,
that's
thank
your
you.
stuff, man. You hold on to that resentment. You
Yep.
hold on to the bad feeling. You hold on to that negativity.
Yep.
I don't want anything to do with it. I
Yep.
love you, brother. I want to stay happy today. I want to enjoy my day. You go ahead and sit there and honk your horn and be upset with yourself.
Yep.
I'm out of here. And then you just move about your day. That is the effective way to handle it. Now, none of us are perfect. So obviously, when we're having this conversation, we're not saying, that we adhere to it every time and that we're great at it every time.
You can ask my
But
wife; she'll tell you I'm not. So.
but at least spiritually and philosophically, we can all agree that that is the correct way to go
Yes.
about it. So that should be the ultimate goal, much like nirvana or Zen, right? Even though it may not ever be attainable for all of us, but it doesn't mean we should stop trying to attain it, right?
Pretty much.
Or like for me, losing weight out of this belly. Just because I may feel like it may never be attainable doesn't mean that I shouldn't at least move forward or at least acknowledge that potato chip right there is probably not the right thing to do.
Sure.
All the
All right, man. We've already blown away our 30-minute time limit, man. So,
Well, I was going to say, and I already said my last word, so there it
yes.
was.
Well, and I think I don't really have much else to add. I think we've kind of gotten our point across today. I will say just food for thought, man. Just throw out some tips there for you guys. I would tell you, number one, to actively, uh, uh, look at your daily interactions with other people and figure out if they're coming from a place of compassion and kindness, or if they're coming from a place. Full disclosure, that's an empty can, by the way. Anybody who's watching this, and for
I told you I would do it.
those of you listening, he just took a quote unquote drink of his Celsius and it's empty, and we've known it's empty since the beginning of the show. Just want
Yep.
to throw that out there.
I told you I would do it because
know,
I
I do
always
too.
I try to shake up as much little liquid.
Yep, I do it too. So the first tip is just try to be aware of it, acknowledge it, and understand it. The second tip I would say is do the same for others. when they're doing or saying something to you that's frustrating or difficult or whatever it is, try to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand their perspective and what it is that might be causing them to respond in that manner. And then third and final one, man, it's very simple. I'm gonna make this the easiest tip we've ever had. Be kind. Just be kind, man. Seriously, just come from a place of kindness. No matter what you're saying, no matter what you're doing, just always make sure it comes from a place of kindness. And sometimes the kindest thing you could do is not say anything at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
on that note, we're going to go ahead and run the outro here for Dharma Time. And then we will come back after this quick little brief intermission. And we will, for those of you watching live, we'll transition to the morning after with Dope and Dharma. That's our sports show where we're going to talk about some, I'm assuming football. So if you're currently watching live and you want to stick around for some sports and football discussion, by all means, stay around until after the break.
There are other sports, Trinity.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to talk about. And if you tuned in specifically for Dharma Time and only Dharma Time, thank you so much for that. But that's all we got. So now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.